Welcome back to Law and Crime. I'm Carissa Kranz, and we are going to shift gears again and flip to another case that we're covering on the network today. It is the Shayna Hubers retrial. That's right, it's the retrial out of Kentucky. This case has garnered tons of media attention, including some segments on 48 Hours. This is the story of the girl who some have called the nose job killer. She is accused of murdering her boyfriend, shooting him 6 times, and all because she didn't want him to break up with her. He had a date with a Miss Ohio that night, and instead of going on a date, he ended up dead. Right now on the stand, we have Bill Birkenhauer. He's a Highland Heights police chief, and he is here to testify for the prosecution, so it's going to be for the prosecution, about the position of the boyfriend at the time and whether or not her story of self-defense adds up. Let's take a look.
Right now.
Specifically about what the defendant said about the victim's position, Mr. Poston's position at the time he was first shot. As an investigator, can you tell me the importance of what's been marked as Commonwealth's Exhibit number 130? I'm going out of order. I'm sorry. Yes.
Yes, by the time I arrived at the crime scene, I'd already, like I said, observed some of Ms. Hubers' statements, and I'd already also talked to the officers that were present. The statement about her standing on one side of the table and shooting Mr. Poston from across the table as he was seated at the kitchen table, or I believe she said he was seated or starting to stand up. That is important for this picture here because, as you can see, Mr. Poston's legs are slightly bent, extended out in front of him, which would be underneath the table, and his feet appear to be crossed. Based off of the positioning of Mr. Poston's body there, it's obvious that he was sitting because if your feet are extended in front of you underneath the table, you can't start to stand up. When you start to stand up, you pull your feet back up under you or put them underneath you as you start to stand up. Based on this picture, it's clear, again, he was sitting, legs extended at the chair.
I'm going to show you now what's been marked. Go back and count to 129. Does this also show a different angle of that or a different version of that?
Yes, it is a different angle, again, with the slightly bent legs and feet extended under the table. Yes, I can. That's the living room area, both TVs and the love seat in the picture, chair in the middle of the living room floor, and footstool.
And can you explain to the jury the importance of this photograph from your investigative perspective?
Well, a couple things. One, you can start to see the clutter and the stuff in the living room with the chairs in the middle of the floor and the footstool and things of that nature. Both TVs are on. Both TVs are in place. The one TV.
What does that mean, in place?
Means they're not knocked over on the floor, knocked over, pushed against the wall, damaged in any way. These TVs also were pretty much covered in dust, so it's obvious that nobody even brushed up against the TVs because there would have been streaks from the dust on the screens and the sides.
And there was no dust disturbed?
No, there was not.
Again, just another outline picture 132, a little further away. I'm not sure if we've had this one in a record yet. What's important is from your investigation with this photograph?
Again, just the amount of things in the middle of the living room floor. You have a coffee table, a chair, an exercise bike, the couches, the statement about being thrown from or pushed from the bedroom to the front door or thrown, or there's quite a few statements. This indicates, based off of the amount of items in the middle of the living room floor and nothing being disturbed. I think you can see the coffee table. There's quite a few items on there that obviously have not been disturbed. There does not appear that there could have possibly been any kind of struggle in the middle of that living room.
We talked a little bit about the table where Ryan was sitting.
Yes.
What'd you notice about the table?
Well, the first thing about the table was the amount of items laying on the table. There was pretty much something covering the whole table. That was important because of the statement about the gun sitting on the table and that she reached it or grabbed it out of his hand or he was trying to reach across the table to get the gun. There couldn't have possibly been any type of struggle there. Again, based off of the location of Mr. Poston's body, he was clearly sitting. In fact, he was sitting away from the table somewhat. Had there been any type of struggle or even if he'd been reaching across the table when he was shot, the body would have landed on the table, disturbing some of the items sitting there, which none of that was.
Welcome back. I'm Carissa Kranz, and that is Bill Birkenhauer of the Highland Heights Police. He's the Highland Heights Police Chief, and he is discussing the facts from his professional expert opinion of what happened in the moments leading up to the murder of Mr. Poston, Shayna Hubers' boyfriend. With me, Ashley Willcott, trial judge. What are your initial thoughts in listening to his testimony that there was no struggle, that there's no way that this was self-defense, and that he was actually sitting down?
Right. What damning testimony. I think the last statement he made under oath was the most damning, and that is if he were reaching for the gun, as she said, at the table, he would have fallen forward, knocked things off the table. That didn't happen. Everything was on the table, everything undisturbed. This is a prosecution's dream witness.
Right. And let's not forget, this is a retrial hearing. So for those of you just joining us, this is a girl, Shayna Hubert, who was already tried and convicted and was going to be serving 40 years. But because a juror on the original panel was a convicted felon and that wasn't disclosed, we're here again today with a retrial. So the question is going to be, is this panel of jurors going to decide like the last panel of jurors? Because the facts haven't changed. The only thing that's changed is time has passed and that maybe she's matured a bit in jail. She hasn't even been to a prison. She's been sitting in a county jail. And we've seen on the network some video clips of her where she has wanted to get married while in jail to another inmate, a transgender. And so we've seen some insight into her thoughts and how she thinks. And that might be the only time we hear from her. Ashley, do you think we're going to hear from her in this case? I know that when they asked her on the video, which is the one time we did hear from her, she said that she was going to leave it up to surprise on whether or not we would hear from her in this case. And that would be the only facts that would differ from the first trial, because in the first trial, she didn't speak for herself and she didn't take the stand. That could be the only strategy that could be different this time. What do you think?
Right. So watching her in the media, if I were her attorney, I would not want her to speak, given the facts in this particular case. I think she is going to want to speak. She has a right to do that. So we'll see, do her attorneys win, I think, as they advise her, or is she going to win and say, I don't care what you say, I'm testifying this time?
Right.
Because I think she has a lot to say.
She absolutely has a lot to say, because we've seen her interrogation videos where she didn't even have questions asked. She just kept rambling and talking, and the investigators had to keep cycling through the room. So she might be a huge liability, Imran, if she takes the stand, and it may not be the best thing for her case. However, it could be the best thing for her case in light of the last time all they had was the interrogation videos, which was not very redeeming. And if she takes the stand, she may have the opportunity to redeem herself. What do you think?
Well, you know what? I really can't see a situation where she is going to redeem herself if she takes the stand. So you have the video from the interrogation room. You have the statement she's made to the media. And if she takes the stand, I think it's only going to hurt her case. And I really don't see any benefit. I'm sure her attorneys are advising her against it.
Okay, well, let's see. We will continue to follow this, and we will all be on our pins and needles watching this case to see what happens when the defense puts on its case. But right now, we're still in the prosecution's case. And Bill Birkenhauer with the Highland Heights Police Department, he is the chief of the police department, is still on the stand. So we're going to go back to his testimony and see how he bolsters the case for the prosecution that this is not self-defense.
Throughout the course of their relationship, there was different messages that indicated she was able to log on to his Facebook page. The most recent one was within a month of the incident, I believe, where she sent a message that she was on Ryan's Facebook, blocking people and doing different things as him on his Facebook page. So she obviously was able to obtain his password somehow.
I'm going to go ahead and show you what's been marked as Commonwealth's Exhibit 138 and 139. Can you please identify those items?
Yes, these are text messages from Shayna Hubers' cell phone. Okay, Rick.
Well, let's start with the date and time. Let's just start with the date when these messages were sent.
The dates are September 20th of 2012.
And do you know, based upon the phone number, who it is that she is sending the message to?
It's 859-699-1654. I believe it was Yasna, a friend of hers.
And what does the defendant say? Who is that?
It's a friend of Miss Hubers.
And what does she say to her friend?
The first message, and they're within 2 minutes of each other, is first message reads, "Ha ha, after you wrote on my pic, Ryan unliked it, BC, because he realized that I liked it from his computer while logged on as him. Ha ha ha, oh shit, I'm probably in trouble. You know what, fuck him."
The next message?
Next message was about 2 minutes later, and it's also from Shayna Hubers' cell phone to Yasna. It reads, "Yeah, he's a dick. I think he knows I play on his Facebook, ha ha ha, and block bitches. Just accept that you're fucking retarded, will never understand or get anything, and stop texting me. I don't want your services, bye."
Were you able to identify the number in which those messages were sent from?
Yes, it came from Harriet Oduro, which is a friend of Shayna Hubers, actually someone she lived with.
And then if I can approach what's been marked as Commonwealth's Exhibit number 145. Can you identify what that is that you're looking at?
Yes, this is a copy of the printout from Shayna Hubers' cell phone.
What was of note to you with those messages?
It has the screenshots of all the messages I just read to you.
And who did she send those to?
She sent them to 2 different friends and put, "I text Ryan this shit from my friend's phone, check it out." And that date would have been 10/1 of 2012.
So, on October 1st of 2012, she's sending those messages from a friend's cell phone.
Yes, that's correct.
Welcome back. I'm Carissa Kranz, and that is Bill Birkenhauer with the Highland Heights Police Department. He is the chief, and he is giving testimony about social media and text messages from Shayna before the murder. She is claiming self-defense. Ashley Willcott, trial judge, what are your initial thoughts on this, and is it looking good for her the second time around?
You know, she'd never committed a crime if she'd never done anything wrong. These texts might be like, man, she's just frustrated. She doesn't like her boyfriend. He sounds like a real jerk. But when you look at it in the context of she's now shot him claiming self-defense, I think it makes her appear as if she's a little bit crazy and a little bit jealous and blocking girls and getting on his Facebook, and that it's not necessarily self-defense, but some of her own issues causing her to commit this crime.
Yeah, a little bit crazy. When we saw that interrogation video, she was walking around doing pirouettes, twirling, saying, "Yeah, I did it," and singing Amazing Grace. So I would say there's something a little off. Imran?
I mean, this is a fatal attraction sort of storyline here, right? You have the evidence of the text messages, you have the evidence of the Facebook activity, and you really see, when you put all that together, it's building a motive for this individual to have a extreme jealousy and really commit this crime. I think the evidence is stacking up. It's a fatal attraction sort of situation, and it doesn't look good for her.
And well, one thing you said that's key is motive. We heard testimony as well earlier this week from someone that worked with Mr. Poston, the victim, and what his demeanor was when he was trying to break up with her, and how depressed he was, and then how happy he was that day because he had a date with Miss Ohio. He felt like he had a new beginning. Little did he know that his life was going to be taken from him because of that. We have to go to a quick break. We're going to continue to follow this. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
We've heard a little bit about the defendant going to...
Welcome back. I'm Carissa Kranz, and we are following our trial right now of Shayna Hubers. This is the case that we are paying attention to. We are always paying attention to a full stacked schedule, and all of it is on our network that you can tune into and go to if you want to follow one of the other trials we've been bringing to your attention. But right now, this is the one we're talking about. It is the retrial of Shayna Hubers. This is the case where she is often referred to as the nose job killer because she shot her boyfriend in the head and in the nose, and then she said in interrogation that she gave him the nose job he always wanted. Some crazy facts, and she's claiming self-defense. Before the break, we were listening to Bill Birkenhauer of the Highland Heights Police Department. He is the chief, and he was giving testimony about the position of the boyfriend and how this could not be self-defense because he was sitting down. And now he's going into testimony of text messages from the defendant herself to the boyfriend, to friends, social media, all sorts of damning evidence for her case. Remember, she was already sentenced to 40 years in prison for this murder, and this is a retrial. So the question is this jury going to take this evidence and look at it differently? And the only thing that could change this time, really, in the presentation of the evidence is the defendant going to take the stand? That is still yet to be seen. Let's take a look at Bill Birkenhauer and what he's got to say and what insight these text messages give. It's certainly not helping her case.
We've heard a little bit about the defendant going to the firing range.
Yes.
Are you aware of that incident?
Yes, I am.
Through the course of your investigation, did you learn who it was that was attempting to arrange that day at the range?
Shayna Hubers sent a lot of messages asking Ryan to go to the range. First, she started off asking a friend, Tom Awadaba, to join him. And she kept asking Ryan. Ryan was busy on, I think, the 1st of October and the 2nd. And after asking her quite a few text messages requesting from Shayna Hubers to go to the range, they agreed and went on October 3rd.
We heard about October 3rd, and I just want to make sure, based upon your investigation, that you found messages referencing going to the range. Is that correct?
Yes, I did. There was quite a few text messages that...
I'm going to approach now what's been marked as Commonwealth's Exhibit 146. Can you please identify that?
Yes, this is a text message or a chat message from Shayna Hubers' cell phone to Yasna, the girl I talked about earlier. It was sent on 10/3 of 2012 at 10:53 a.m. UTC, which would have made at 8:53 p.m. on... I'm sorry.
Read the content of what...
I think I missed it. It was 4 hours prior to 12:53 a.m. on 10/3.
Okay. So that would actually make it sent on the 2nd?
Right.
Okay.
At 8:53 p.m. I was correct. The text message, this is, again, from Shayna Hubers' cell phone. He collects them. A part of me wanted to turn around and shoot him. I wonder why he's taking me on dates and stuff. LOL. I'm not going to turn down learning to shoot a gun. Ha ha ha.
Did you hear communication from the defendant regarding what she did when the two of them would break up?
Quite a bit, actually. There was messages that said she just shows up. She dresses up, gets looking pretty, and just shows up. She doesn't leave. She keeps calling him until he finally answers.
She said why she thought the defendant or the victim, Mr. Poston, was still with her after those occasions?
because when he breaks up with her, she cries nonstop until he takes her back and he feels bad.
Let's talk a little bit about October 11th, the day before Mr. Poston was shot and killed. Are you aware of what happened earlier that week between the two of them?
Well, Shayna Hubers had been calling Ryan, asking to go out on a date, to go see the movie Taken 2 and go to dinner. I think he acknowledged that he would do that. She sent multiple messages trying to lock down the date and time and where they were going and such like that.
Okay. So that was her idea to go to a movie?
Yes, clearly.
And then we heard that later the plans changed.
Correct.
Okay.
Welcome back. I'm Carissa Kranz, and that was Bill Birkenhauer of the Highland Heights Police Department. And he is continuing his testimony, which is important testimony in the Shayna Hubers trial, because she's claiming self-defense. But he is giving insight and lending circumstantial evidence through text messages and social media that goes to her guilt and culpability that this is not self-defense. Specifically, what we just heard right now is that she wanted to go to the shooting range and even sent a text message that at one point that she wanted to turn around and shoot him. That's pretty bad. That shows some premeditation. The second thing we hear is how she is incessantly calling him and texting him and following him and showing up places because she doesn't want to lose him or let him break up with her. Pretty damning facts. What do you say, Imran?
I 100% agree. So, I mean, when you take this circumstantial evidence, as you stated,
be a criminal defense attorney. Don't agree with me.
Well, you know what? I have to call it how it is.
Somebody's got to represent her.
It just doesn't look good.
How does the defense recover from this?
You know, I'm speechless because right now it's a hard recover because you have she's going self-defense, but the forensic evidence from the apartment doesn't really show a struggle or evidence of a struggle. Then you have this litany of text messages and social media.
Shows her crazy state of mind.
Sort of it could be argued by the prosecution that there's an obsession here and it went too far. And then going to the range and talking about shooting him, it just doesn't look good.
She needed target practice. She wanted to go to the range to get better.
Right.
To get that nose. Yep, exactly. The nose job killer. She gave him the nose job he always wanted, as she said in the interrogation room. Kind of sick. And then she sang Amazing Grace. We have to take a quick break. Stick with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Law and Crime. I'm Carissa Kranz, and during the break, we had fun on set continuing to discuss this trial, but unfortunately, you had to go to commercial break and you didn't get to hear what we had to say. We are still discussing Shayna Hubers, the nose job killer. She is standing trial for a second time for killing her boyfriend. She's claiming self-defense, but it's not going so well for her while the prosecution's putting on their case. Imran and I were on set here agreeing, and then I had Ashley in my ear saying, I could play devil's advocate. I'm a trial judge, and I'm mostly for the prosecution, but I can absolutely make an argument for her case. I don't know what, Ashley, you could possibly say to make an argument for her, because this is not going well.
It's not going well, but listen, the opening statements were completely opposed to one another and said these are two different stories. We have not yet heard her evidence. We have not heard the defense. For all we know, we may hear that, hey, the reason she said she wanted to shoot him at the shooting range was because the day before he beat the crap out of her. We don't know the evidence yet. So I'm just saying, hey, let's hear what the defense is and what evidence there is before we assume that it wasn't self-defense.
Well, Imran, it looks like you were about to say something.
What we do know, I think, is that they did take a medical exam of her after this incident, and I don't believe she had any indication of any trauma or any bruising or of that sort that would indicate sort of physical violence against her.
There's none of that. She was singing and dancing in the interrogation room.
Exactly.
You know, I like to say the pirouette. She said, I did it, yes, I did it, and she did a twirl. And as a former ballet dancer here, that pirouette sticks out in my mind. There was the only turn here is there's no turn of events. I do not see the defense coming back from this unless she takes the stand and shows some type of growth or maturity since evidence then that would garner some kind of sympathy for the jurors? Because there's no doubt she did it, Ashley, as a judge. There's no doubt she did it.
Right.
She's going to be found guilty of killing him. The question is it going to be first-degree murder? Is it going to be a lesser? Could her sentence change, be knocked down from the 40 years to something else? I mean, what's best case scenario here?
Well, I do think that she is going to be convicted. But did you see there was an interview with her in which she said that she felt like spending time in jail has matured her and her age has made a difference, and that now she, in fact, would know to handle it differently and not shoot him. So that may not be first degree.
But is it that she matured, or is it that she moved on and is now obsessed with someone else who is a transgender, and she did all of that to make sure she could get married, to have some more media attention before this trial, to keep to her position that having this trial in this jurisdiction would prevent her from having a fair trial so she could have grounds for another appeal?
Grounds for another appeal. I do think there'll be another appeal. I predict first degree murder. I think that's what this conviction's going to be.
I mean, she seems completely nuts. And in that video where we watched her a couple years later, like you said, which we've played on our network, and I'm sure you could go to our network to see it, she does seem more grounded. She does seem more mature. And if that person can go onto the stand and talk and be maintained and not go off on tangents and rampages and just talk and talk and talk and talk like she did in the interrogation room, because in the interrogation room she said she better get an attorney, and then they stopped asking her questions, and then hours and hours of testimony kept coming out of her mouth because she didn't know how to shut up. Not looking good for her.
Well, they say, ignorance is no defense under the law. I'm going to say maturity is no defense under the law. I think that conviction is coming.
Right. The only thing that's probably going to change possibly is the sentencing. We'll see what happens. Hey, that's to be seen. It's a retrial. We are live, so we're all going to see this unfold together. We're going to go back into the courtroom with more testimony from Bill Birkenhauer. He is the Highland Heights Police Chief, and he is giving some critical testimony about her state of mind, her motive, and her lies. Let's take a look.
There was numerous messages from Shayna Hubers, and those messages were like a whole page, not the page of a cell phone. They would take up the whole page of the printout. His response were, he actually didn't respond. He was working, and I think the first message, his response was he was in a meeting, and then at some point she asked for a ride to the airport, and he finally responded to that and said yes. So that day the messages were just, the same ratio. There might have been, he might have responded 3 or 4 times.
3 or 4 times to how many messages, if you had to guess?
There was probably,
if he knows,
quite a few, but again, these messages on this date were all very long. They weren't short messages, they were long. So there was less than usual, but over 10, less than 20.
During that period of time, you mentioned a request to take her to the airport.
Yes.
During the course of those conversations between them, did the defendant say why she needed to go to the airport?
She was going to fly to Hawaii.
Why?
The Aunt Kia was dying again.
And she needed, what was her request to Brian?
To ride her to the airport.
And for that, what did he say?
He agreed to do it, yes.
Did she say anything about the type of ticket she had?
She said that she was buying a one-way ticket.
You searched the defendant's phone, her emails, her computer history. Did you find a ticket to Hawaii one way?
No, there was no tickets, and there was no communication with anybody else about going to Hawaii either that Sunday. She had some text messages back and forth with the Aunt Kia, and no indication that she was getting on a plane that Sunday and flying out there.
In fact, did you find that the defendant had other plans for that same day?
Yes, on Sunday she was supposed to be going to the Phantom of the Opera with her mother.
And those tickets to the Phantom, were those already purchased?
Yes, on 10/11 she sent a message that her mom had purchased 3 tickets for Sunday for Phantom of the Opera.
Were you able to find evidence of what the defendant had planned during the course of your investigation, where he was supposed to be on Saturday?
Yes, he was going to a Wings model fashion show. There was text messaging back and forth between, actually throughout the course of the day on the 12th, about Shayna Hubers saying she wanted to go with him and she was upset that she wasn't invited and things of that nature. And then he also acknowledged that he was going to the Wings model show with his friend Jake.
You said she was upset.
Yes.
Explain what you mean by that. What you learned through the course of your investigation.
The text messages reveal how she was upset that she wasn't invited to go with him to the show. She kept asking and talking about how she could go and wanted to go.
And what was the response?
He told her there was no tickets and that basically she couldn't go with him.
I'm going to show you now what's been marked as Commonwealth's Exhibit 152. Can you identify that document?
Yes, this is a search off of Shayna Hubers' phone. Appears to be directions to the Wings modeling agency.
Welcome back. I'm Carissa Kranz, and this case is made for TV. That's Bill Birkenhauer, Highland Heights Police Chief, and we're hearing testimony about all of Shayna Hubers' lies. That's right, lies. The first is how she's going to Hawaii and it's a one-way ticket, but how they searched their computers and there was no search or ticket or anything that existed to Hawaii. That was her way to manipulate him, the boyfriend who she shot and killed, to respond to her because she wasn't getting a response. And he said, yes, I will take you to the airport when he learned it was a one-way ticket. Because remember, she wouldn't allow him to break up with her. Then we hear about how he had plans to go to a modeling show and she was pissed that she wasn't invited. He said there were no more tickets. She took it a step further because she was obsessed with him. She then calls the modeling place to find out for herself and lies, saying she heard about the event from Facebook, to see if she could get herself in. Ashley, what do you make of all this?
Oh my gosh, right? She reminds me so much of Jodi Arias, and that was somebody who was convicted for killing her boyfriend in cold blood. But the same kind of behaviors, the ego, the narcissistic personality to think, oh, I get to go, crazy behaviors. And I think she didn't get her way and she was jealous and upset, so she killed him in cold blood.
Right. The obsession is what we're seeing, the complete obsession, like Jodi Arias. Imran, do you have a comment on that to add?
Like I said before, it's like scripted from Fatal Attraction, and it's that sort of situation here. She was jealous, she was obsessed, she was losing him, she couldn't take it, and I think that propelled this crime.
So what do we learn from this? We learn either guys don't break up with us or guys don't date crazy, because Jodi Arias and Shayna Hubers is seeming a bit crazy, pathological, sociopaths, narcissists, you name it. They have these qualities, but they don't have the quality of any legal mental defect. That we also know for sure, and that was not even brought up in this case. She's clearly deranged, but there's no legal mental defect. We're now going to go to testimony from Rachel Riker. She is an employee at the modeling place where she found out her boyfriend was going without her. And this employee remembers the phone call when Shayna took it one step further to find out if she could get into the event, even though she wasn't invited. Let's take a look.
And Ms. Reicher, where were you employed in October of 2012?
I worked at Wings Model Management.
And I'm actually going to approach and show you what's been marked as Commonwealth's Exhibit number 152. Can you please tell the jury if that location, is that the location of Wings Model Management?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And ma'am, what were your duties at Wings Model Management?
I worked as a model booker, so I took calls from clients and then would submit different models for different jobs.
Do you recall the week of October 12th, 2012?
I do, yes.
Was there anything particular going on at your place of employment at that time?
Yes, that was Cincinnati Fashion Week for that year. So there were a series of different fashion shows that we were providing models for.
Were some of those taking place that weekend?
Yes.
And ma'am, did you know Ryan Poston?
I did know him, yes.
How did you know Mr. Poston?
He had been in the office on and off for about 6 months. He was friends with the owner.
Okay.
So he was pretty much just an acquaintance.
And go ahead. I'm sorry. And I also want to ask: did you know Shayna Hubers?
No.
Have you met Shayna Hubers prior to? Or
The last time I was here.
2012. Have you met Shayna Hubers?
No.
Okay.
Okay, that's Rachel Rikers, and she is an employee at the modeling place where Shayna called to find out if she could get herself in because she knew that her boyfriend was going and she wasn't invited, and she wanted to follow him and she wanted to stalk him because she was obsessed with him. And this employee remembers that day, and she even remembers the phone call, which we are going to hear after this break. She knew the boyfriend, she didn't know Shayna, but she remembers the phone call, and that phone call in just a few minutes. Stick with us. We will be right back. Welcome back. I'm Carissa Kranz, and before the break, you were listening to Rachel Riker, who worked at the modeling management company. She's an employee, and she was telling us that she remembers Shayna Hubers' boyfriend, and she remembers a very important phone call from Shayna when she was trying to get tickets to the modeling event that she was not invited to by her boyfriend, and she was pissed off. So she went around her boyfriend's back to try to call the place to see if she could get herself in so she could show up, true to a true stalker. Let's hear about this employee's memory of that phone call with Shayna Hubers.
And so, ma'am, I want to ask, do you specifically recall working on October 12th, 2012?
I do.
And tell me, did you take any phone calls that day?
I did. Yes, I also answered the phone. We all kind of shared that responsibility.
And can you please tell me, on October 12th, 2012, did you receive any phone calls from a female that identified themselves as Shayna?
I did.
Can you tell the jury about that call, please?
Yes. So I answered the phone, and it was a girl who was looking to buy tickets to the fashion show that was happening that Saturday night. She had heard about it on Facebook. So I asked her, I said, are you one of our models? You know, how did you hear about it? And that's when she said Facebook. And she said her name was Shayna, and I thought for a brief second that it was one of our models who was also named Shayna. And I told her that we could not sell her tickets to the show, that we didn't have that capability, that we were just supplying the models to the show. And at that point, I thought that would be the end of the conversation. But she was very persistent, and so I walked her through the website and told her how she could purchase the tickets online. And again, I thought that would, at that point, that would be the end of the conversation. But she stated that she was uncomfortable buying things online. She'd rather buy them over the phone. So I put her on hold, and I checked with the other staff members. There was no way to purchase the tickets except from the website. So I let her know that. And again, I thought that would be the end of the conversation. At that point, she identified herself as Ryan Poston's girlfriend. And I thought, she identified herself as Ryan Poston's girlfriend and mentioned that he was going to a fashion show that Saturday night, that Jake Lang, the owner, had invited him as his guest, but Ryan felt uncomfortable asking for more tickets. So I explained to her at that point that, yes, Jake did have some tickets that were VIP tickets that had been given to him, you know, just a few of them for providing the models for the show. But we really weren't selling those.
And was that the extent of your all's conversation?
Yes.
Any cross-examination?
Just one question, Your Honor. That show was for October 13th, is that correct?
Yes.
That's all the questions I have.
Okay, I'm back. I'm Carissa Kranz, and we have a lot to talk about here. This is Rachel Riker. She is an employee of the model management company, and this is the Shayna Hubers trial. Her testimony is key because she is setting up the tone of motive and premeditation for Shayna Hubers. This is her retrial. Remember, she was already tried in this case and convicted and sentenced to 40 years in prison for first-degree murder for killing her boyfriend. This is a high media case. It's been on 48 hours, and we're still covering it as a huge media case, even now in the retrial. Her testimony right now from Rachel is important. Imran, it's important, right, because it is setting the stage of her psychopath, obsessive stalker behavior of how even though she wasn't invited, she was going to go around him to go anyway, and then he ends up, I think, being killed that night because she couldn't get in. And that's the same night he also had a date with Miss Ohio. Do I have those facts right?
I believe so, and you know exactly what you stated is really important for the prosecution's theory of case here, the sort of storyline they're putting forward as they prosecute this crime, that she had the motive to kill this individual, that she was obsessed with this individual, she was jealous, and all these actions, the calling of the model agency to make sure she's where he is, the text messaging,
well, and we've heard there's
media.
A theme now of her showing up. We heard testimony the other day in this case where the boyfriend, Mr. Poston, was saying, oh, yes, I broke up with her, and then suddenly she shows up with his lunch. And that friend, that witness, was confused because, like, wait a minute, why does she have his lunch if they broke up? That doesn't make sense. Ashley, I want to give you an opportunity to chime in here.
Yeah. Okay. So don't date crazy, like you said earlier.
Don't date crazy. Yes.
Right. The other thing I do want to add, though, is everyone should notice this witness started to say, I thought about the Brian conversation with the girlfriend, and then she stopped herself. She's not an expert. She can't give her opinion. Wouldn't we love to know what she thought? But it's just not admissible.
Okay, and I just want to clear up the timeline here of facts of how this happened. Okay, so he had, the boyfriend, a date with Miss Ohio on October 12th. Then the fashion show was supposed to be October 13th. He was killed October 12th, the day before the fashion show and before the date with Miss Ohio. Ashley, how does that go to premeditation?
Premeditation in terms of all of the steps filling in and saying she thought about it, right? She was going to get tickets, invite herself to the fashion show.
So then did she plan to kill him? She wanted to go to the show the next day, but she killed him the day before. Is that premeditation?
Well, I think so. I think the fact she couldn't get tickets to this, that's what I would argue if I were prosecution. She was taking all these steps. She was obsessed. It didn't work out in her favor. She didn't get what she wanted, so she planned it and she killed him.
Okay, and so for the viewers to understand premeditation and the formation of intent, how much intent to kill and how much planning ahead do you have to have in order to be guilty of first-degree murder?
Well, let's talk about there's no chronological requirement, right? So it's not like you have to plan it for 5 days or 4 days or 1 day. You just, as a prosecution, just have to show that they intended to actually kill that person, even if that happened in the 5 minutes before.
So now it seems to me that the conversation among us, the three of us, has changed. It's no longer could this possibly be self-defense as much as how much premeditation and how much intent went into this and how much of her is just a hothead that flipped and is psycho, right? Ashley?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, that could be the case. But still, even if she's a hothead and psycho, she still picked up that gun intending to kill him. That would be my argument, that it's premeditated. She planned to kill him, even if it was, right at the time she's having this argument and she thinks to herself, I'm just going to shoot him, and she does. That's premeditation.
Right. And what, circumstantially, there's those text messages regarding she just wants to shoot him. So circumstantial evidence would go
at the shooting range. You're saying
premeditated.
Yeah, at the shooting range, she texted a friend that she would had an inkling to turn around and just shoot him at that time, which I'm sure she would say she didn't mean it. It was a joke. I mean, how often do we all say, "Oh my God, I could just kill him. He's annoying me. I could just kill him," but we don't really mean it. The question is, did she mean it? Didn't she mean it? She killed him. So facts don't look good in her favor.
Right. The building blocks for the prosecution, they're all there on this case. So
far,
premeditation, so far.
But as Ashley said, we haven't heard the defense's case yet. We don't know what they're going to say, and they may have a case, and we'll see if they put her on the stand, if there's anything redeeming about it. But this is made for TV. I mean, this is making a murder. So we're going to now go to Bill Birkenhauer with the Highland Heights Chief Police. We heard him already testify on direct examination. Now we're going to hear him on cross-examination. He's certainly built up the prosecution's case on direct of how nuts and how crazy the defendant is. Let's take a look at cross.
And Shayna went through my phone at some point in the middle of the night and saw my text to you and was interrogating me all morning about why I hate her and why I'm such an asshole. That was fun.
And then he whoever he's texting responds back to him, right?
Yes, about 3 minutes later.
Okay? And just read that exchange for the jury.
Are things over, question mark, and how did she explain going through your phone, question mark?
You can keep reading.
The next response was from Mr. Poston to the same number at 6/16 of 2011 at 12:34. Response is, and I never brought up her going through my phone. I've noticed that a lot of girls do that for some reason. It's weird.
And that's from Mr. Poston.
Correct.
Okay, how many times have you heard she went through my phone or he went through my phone and he figured out something or someone that we were trying to hide? But how often does that really lead to murder? And did the boyfriend act irresponsibly by not shutting her down and thinking that's weird and going along with her plan? The key thing is they obviously had a connection because he did protect her in some way. We have to go to a quick break. We'll be right back in just a few minutes. Stick with us. Long Crime. I'm Carissa Kranz. Before the break, we were dissecting, analyzing, and overanalyzing the Shayna Hubers trial. Right now on the stand was Bill Birkenhauer, and he is with the Highland Heights Police Department. He is the chief of police, and he was going through some testimony, specifically before the break, some text messages about where the boyfriend who was shot and killed by Shayna admits that he knew that she was psycho by going through his phone and that he didn't really do anything to stop her. He actually let her do it because he thought that that's what all girls do and in a way protected her, which shows that they did have a connection that he didn't really clearly break. Ashley, I know you need to leave. You've been with us for almost 2 hours. Before you do, I want to give you the opportunity to comment on that. And how often do text messages read by a significant other turn deadly?
Well, they shouldn't turn deadly, certainly. I
They
think a lot
shouldn't, but how do you know when too far is too far? Is reading someone's phone going too far? What's too far?
You know what? If you're in a trust and caring relationship, yeah, I think that's going too far. And so the fact he can say, oh, I hear about girls doing this all the time, they do it all the time, well, you're hanging out with the wrong girls. And on that note, Chris, I appreciate being on today. Thank you.
Okay, well, make sure you read your text messages when you go home.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, Ashley. We look forward to having you back here, and we'll see you soon.
Great. Thanks. Take care.
Okay. Imran, do you have anything to comment before we go back into the trial with this text messages? You're a guy. How often does a girl read your phone?
Well, you know, I'd like to think that my wife isn't going through my phone when I'm.
So even though you're married, you want to just be trusted that she's not going through your phone. It's not like she has a license to read your phone because you're married.
Yes.
So you're not
agree.
married to psycho. That's great.
No, not at all.
Congratulations.
Not at all. Honey, you're not a psycho.
Okay, we are going to go back to cross-examination testimony of Bill Birkenhauer of the Highland Heights Police Department, and he is going to continue with the prosecution's case in proving why Shayna Hubers really has an upward battle when she has to put on her defense. Let's take a look.
And Shayna went through my phone at some point in the middle of the night and saw my text to you and was interrogating me all morning about why I hate her and why I'm such an asshole. That was fun.
And then whoever he's texting responds back to him, right?
Yes, about 3 minutes later.
Okay? And just read that exchange for the jury.
Are things over, question mark, and how did she explain going through your phone, question mark?
You can keep reading.
The next response was from Mr. Poston to the same number at 6/16 of 2011 at 12:34. Response is, and I never brought up her going through my phone. I've noticed that a lot of girls do that for some reason. It's weird.
And that's from Mr. Poston.
Correct.
Person, that number responds.
Yes, about 4 minutes later, 5 minutes later. Did you call her out on that question mark?
He responds, what happened?
About another minute later, he responds, nah, N-E-H, period, no point, period. It just makes them think you've got something to hide.
And then the person of that number responds back to, right?
Yes, about 3 minutes later. Well, you cared enough to talk your way out of it, so obviously aren't done there. So you obviously aren't done there.
Okay, thank you. Now, Birkenauer, from this message, it would appear that Mr. Poston was aware that Ms. Hubers would on occasion get access to his phone, right?
In June of 2011, yes, it would appear that he was aware of that, yes.
Okay. And the context of that conversation is that Ms. Hubers had seen text messages to the person who owns 513-602-1049, right?
Yes, back in June of 2011, that's accurate.
And that what she saw in there upset her.
I don't know what it did to her, but...
Well, Mr. Poston is certainly communicating to this individual that Ms. Hubers was questioning him about things that she had seen on that message, right?
She is questioning that he relayed, yes.
And at that point, Mr. Poston certainly doesn't terminate the relationship, you know that, right?
That's the only message I have from June of 2011. I don't have the other messages to put it in context. I don't recall what happened in June of 2011 in regards to that message. No.
Okay. As a text exchange between Ms. Hubers and Mr. Poston.
Yes, August 15th of 2012. It is a text message exchange. Shayna Hubers is the first message on there to Ryan Poston.
And you just read the exchange.
You could also risk losing even more money, Ryan, and your sanity if you don't let it go. However, it's your decision, and I support whatever you decide. Next message is also from Shayna Hubers. It says, I understand. The next message is from Ryan Poston to Shayna Hubers. He says, no, he would have gotten everything he wanted, ruined my name, and cost me $30,000. The next message, it says, aha, with a sideways smiley face, I think is what it stands for. It says, we need one then, LOL. And that's from Shayna Hubers' old phone number. Next.
That's all right. Fell into my own trap.
Next message is on the same date at 9:44. This is also from Ryan Poston to Shayna Hubers, but I don't want to talk about any of this right now. I've never been so furious in all my life. I literally can't be around anyone right now. And the next message is also from Ryan Poston to Shayna Hubers. It says, I'll TTYL.
Okay. I know we've talked about, without belaboring the point, Exhibit 81 references that he left his wallet at home. Is that right?
Yes, She sends a message, Shayna Hubers sends a message to Ryan that says, left your wallet at home in the bed, should I bring it to the office later?
And he responds to that message, does not.
Yes.
And his response is in the affirmative, bring me my wallet. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And then Exhibit 82 is references, and it's the date of that is July 30th, 2012, right?
That is accurate.
And just for clarity, Exhibit 81, the date of that communication was July 16th, 2012.
Correct.
And again, without reading everything, it references a communication about bliss tags and finding bliss tags, bringing it to him wherever he is. Is that fair?
That is accurate, yes.
Okay. And then the last one is Exhibit 83, right? And the date of that is August 13th, 2012.
Correct.
And it's referencing her bringing his wallet to him, is that right?
Yes, she sends a message to him offering to bring his wallet to him at the office.
And he responds affirmatively, yeah, bring it to the office. Is that correct? Bring it by the office.
Yeah, first he says he was just going to go home and get it, and then he says, yeah, bring it by the office.
Welcome back to Law and Crime. I'm Carissa Kranz, and what you were just hearing on the stand is testimony from Bill Birkenhauer with the Highland Heights Police Department. He is the chief, and he is giving key testimony for the Shayna Hubers retrial for the prosecution's case. Remember, this is the case where Shayna Hubers was already convicted and sentenced to 40 years in prison. She has been in jail for years, and because a juror was a convicted felon, and that was not disclosed, she got a retrial. And now here we are listening to the testimony of what led up to the murder, which she is claiming self-defense. And this witness is clearly ruining her argument of self-defense. Imran, I want to give you an opportunity before we go to a break to comment on this. The testimony we're hearing totally shows that she is not the most stable person that I've ever seen in a courtroom. What is your perspective on this as a defense attorney?
So if I was her defense attorney, I'd sort of be squirming in my seat right now as those text messages are read out loud in open court right to that jury. As the evidence is being put out there, I'd be a little nervous because it's just sort of painting the prosecution's picture here.
Of motive.
Motive. And that's key, because that's really going to bite into the self-defense defense because, A, you don't have really signs of a struggle at the scene. B, you have someone who's clearly obsessed.
And clearly obsessed. And also, it seems like he gave mixed signals. Like, he kept saying he tried to break up with her, but then he wasn't really breaking up with her. So, it's hard to read what really happened behind closed doors. Some might say that he made her crazy, or maybe she was really just crazy, and he was afraid to break up with her. It's possible he was afraid to break up with her because he knew she was capable of this crazy. We have to take a quick break. Stick with us. We will be right back.